Hey everyone, it's weekly check-in time. It's Friday, woohoo, Friday feeling. This week has been a really great growth experience, and I've learned a couple of really, I suppose, just heaps of lessons. I was actually trying to think, what would be one lesson that would encapsulate this week, and it was kind of hard because there was quite a lot of lessons that I learned. So the weekend was pretty awesome. I went to the market, and we do sell some oils retail at the market, and it was a really, really good market. Met some really awesome people, and just had a great sort of just great weekend. And Sunday we had a bit of a budget meeting, and my husband and I went through kind of where we're at, and realistically, can we keep living in two different places? Can we keep can we afford that, and can we still allow each other a bit of time to grow and work through what we need to? And everything was laid out, and everything was cool, and we had a good lunch together, and everything was fantastic. And went into Monday, just having a good vibe. Went to the cafe, and it was just feeling really, really good. Everything was sort of cruising along, and then went into work. So I work part-time for a charity organisation, and it's a combination of cold calling as well as regular donors, and then sort of re-engaging regular donors. And we had a big meeting, and they said that cold calling is just not that profitable anymore, and that there's a potential that if we're not achieving a certain target, that we'll actually be sent home, and our hours will be cut. And it was a bit of a blow, because the target is, I'm not going to say it's unrealistic, but there's a reason why we're not hitting the target. It's just, it's not because we're being lazy or not doing our job properly. So that was a really big shock, especially because, just finalized everything, just sort of set all these plans, and then this sort of bombshell hit. And I had a bit of a realization from that. I sort of walked away from it just thinking, you can't rely on anything. You can't rely, and I don't mean it in a negative sense, like you can't rely on anything, or you can't rely on anyone, or everything's so negative. But it just really made me realize that I have the ability to be self-reliant. I have the ability to work harder. I have the ability to be adaptable to my situations, myself, and relying on myself and anchoring to myself is the only thing that's really constant in all this change. So I've got change and things going on in our home environment. Just moved, unsure when my husband's going to move in here, and we've got things going on there, and all very positive things, but change nonetheless, and nothing that's sort of set in stone for good reason. And then what happened at work as well, you're like, okay, well, every week I'm going to get X amount, and this is how it's going to work, and then all that change came about. So I had a moment where I was driving home from work on Monday, and it's just getting really emotional, and just worried about what I was going to do, and what would happen if our hours were cut, and all this kind of stuff, and all these things going through my head. And I just thought, what, the only thing that you can really anchor on at the moment, and the only thing that you can really rely on at the moment is yourself, and anchoring on yourself. And that's why self-care is so fundamental, because if you're not looking after yourself, if you're not nurturing yourself, if you're not making sure that you're okay, and that you're the best version of yourself when you're in the midst of all this chaos and these things going around, you really have nothing to anchor on, if that makes sense. So on Tuesday, I went to a free Tai Chi class. I thought I was going to be really unco, and it was going to be a disaster, but it was actually really nice. Beautiful setting. It was out at the botanical garden, so a nice breeze blowing, there were little birdies walking around, which I'm petrified of birds, but I was just like, doing Tai Chi, so it was all good. And it went for an hour, but with traveling and stuff coming in, by the time I got home, it had probably been about a good sort of maybe 2 hours that I was gone for. And I found myself just really berating myself and going, you've wasted all that time. That's 2 hours that you've been going to this Tai Chi just for yourself. And, you need to do this. You've got stuff to do for your blog. You need to organize classes. You need to do this. And while I was having a shower and getting ready for the day, I just thought to myself, but self-care is fundamental. Self-care is not a reward. Self-care is not, well, you're allowed to look after yourself when you've done X, Y, and Z, or you're only allowed to have something for yourself when you've done this, that, or the other thing. So self-care, it's really fundamental. It's not about rewarding yourself for something. It's not about I found myself just really berating myself, and I had to just consciously sort of stop myself and go, no, do you know what, it's okay. It's okay to have done something for yourself. You know, it's not irresponsible. And that just really sort of flowed through on what I thought about anchoring to yourself in uncertainty. And I had to sort of remind myself of that as well. Like, you going to that Tai Chi was something that you did for yourself. It's something to nurture yourself, because right now you need to look after yourself, because that's what you're anchoring on. Because I was driving to work, I think it was then on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. Yeah, I think it was the Tuesday. And again, I was thinking about all these things. Oh, what about this? And I'm unsure about this, and I'm unsure about that. And I thought, you know what, start with what you are sure of. What are the things that you are sure of? And for me, what I'm sure of is I'm sure, I know that the Lord loves me. And I know that He'll take care of me. And I know that if I have faith, and if I pray, and if I'm inspired by Him and led by Him, that everything will be okay. That's something I do know. The other thing that I do know is I'm sure of my abilities, I'm sure of my capabilities, and I started to look back and think back on the things that I'd done in the past, and how I'd overcome things in the past, and in times of challenge and change, and where things were crazy and hectic, how would I overcome that? So I really started to just re-anchor to what I knew, and that all came from self, and what I knew, and what I knew to be true, and things in the past. I had a really awesome conversation with my best friend, my little lobster, and we were talking about just sort of sometimes feeling insecure and feeling a bit silly or a little bit daft sometimes at work, or in certain situations where you feel like almost like an imposter, or like an idiot, like you don't know what you're doing. And I experienced a bit of that yesterday morning. I went to go and meet up with somebody, just to sort of talk about, just to really get to know one another better, and to talk about essential oils. And I was constantly worried about what kind of impression was I making, and I felt daft. I felt like an imposter. I felt not so much an imposter, I don't know, I just felt self-conscious, I suppose it would be the right word. And again, it just all ties back with yourself, and anchoring to yourself, and self-care. So it's okay if you take an hour and it turns out to be 2 hours to go and do Tai Chi, because you need that, because you need to look after yourself. Because as you're looking after yourself, you'll feel less daft. You'll be able to shine forth with confidence. As you shine forth with confidence, it gives other people around you the opportunity to do so as well. So some of the real fundamental lessons that I learned this week was you can't rely on anything. And again, not at all in a negative sense, and I don't mean it as in you can only rely on yourself and it's all me, and this kind of selfish or self-centered vibe. But change is constant. Change is certain as well. There's very few things in life that are certain, but change is definitely one of them. And you need to have an anchor to be able to root down and just really feel anchored, I suppose, rooted. You need to be able to feel that stability in the midst of all this change, and that comes from self, and that comes from self-reliance, and self-reliance grows from self-care. So I'm really happy with November. I thought it was a fantastic month. I was able to go to the beach, do some yoga, go to an awesome essential oils workshop, do some Tai Chi as well, and then also, most important, I think, just not berate myself for taking time out when I was sick to heal my body and to look after my body. I've also been doing yoga as well, which is really, really supportive, and especially yoga with Adrienne, that I'm a massive fan on YouTube. I find her yoga, she speaks to the soul as well as just doing the body work, which is great. And then obviously using essential oils, a lot of balance, a lot of serenity as well. And a lot of citrus oils I've been using, lime, bergamot, wild orange, and motivate as well as a blend. So just really finding those supportive blends and citruses which are nice and uplifting. So yeah, I'd say the self-care is fundamental. If there's anything to take from this week, I'd say that was it. You can't really rely on things to be the same and to stay the same. So self-care is really fundamental, because at times you just have to anchor to what you know, and that comes through self-care. So far so good. Haven't been sent home early. So yeah, fingers crossed that everything will be okay. But it did reignite a bit of the fire in my belly that I'm just like, come on, you can't rely on things staying the same. You need to get some traction. You need to get some action as well. So I'm grateful for that experience. I'm grateful for the shock, and I think sometimes we do need that. We need to sort of shake things up and just realize things won't always be the same, and you have to develop that self-reliance and that self-care to be able to move forward. So those are my thoughts for the week. I hope you find them useful. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to December. I'm kind of in half of a let's wind down and chill out mode, but the other half of me is like, let's go. So we'll kind of just take it a week at a time. So have a lovely week, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.